Abraham Lincoln carried a secret that, if exposed at the wrong moment, could have destroyed him. Not a political secret, not a military one, a family secret, one that cut to the core of identity, legitimacy, and power in 19th century America. Long before he became president, long before the Civil War turned him into a symbol carved in marble, Lincoln privately confessed something that haunted him. He told the one man he trusted with his inner life that his mother had been born outside of marriage. In his own words, she was, by the brutal legal language of the era, a nobody's child. Subscribe to the channel as we go on to explain why Lincoln made this claim. In Lincoln's America, that label mattered. Being born illegitimate was not a private embarrassment. It was a legal stain. It could strip a person of inheritance, credibility, and social standing. For someone with presidential ambitions, it was political dynamite. For more than a century, historians argued over whether Lincoln was telling the truth or repeating a painful family myth. Documents conflicted, memories blurred. Local records contradicted one another. The paper trail failed. Then quietly, in the 21st century, a new kind of evidence entered the story. Not letters, not affidavits, not biographies written decades after the fact. DNA. And what it revealed did not simplify Lincoln's past. It made it more complicated, more human, and more unsettling than anyone expected. If you care about how ancestry, power, and identity actually work in American history, make sure you're subscribed now. This channel doesn't deal in sanitized legends. We follow the evidence even when it leads somewhere uncomfortable. Now let's begin where the story truly starts. In the mid-19th century, Abraham Lincoln shared long days and longer conversations with his law partner, William H. Herndon. Herndon wasn't just a colleague, he was a confidant. A man Lincoln trusted with thoughts he never voiced publicly. Around 1850, in a private moment far from political crowds, Lincoln confided something deeply personal. He told Herndon that his mother, Nancy Hanks, had been born outside of wedlock. He described her as the daughter of a young woman taken advantage of by a man of higher status. He spoke without bitterness but with gravity. "All that I am or ever hope to be," Lincoln reportedly said, "I get from my mother." He believed her intellect, her resilience, her moral clarity shaped him more than anything else. This confession carried real danger. In Lincoln's lifetime, illegitimacy wasn't just social gossip. It was encoded into law. In many states, children born outside marriage were denied inheritance rights and labeled in legal Latin as filius nullius, the child of no one. Even decades later, political opponents weaponized lineage. Had this story surfaced at the wrong moment, Lincoln's rise could have ended before it began. After Lincoln's death, Herndon included the confession in his writings. And immediately, American historians split into camps. One side argued that Lincoln was right. They pointed to Kentucky court records from the late 18th century, showing that a woman named Lucy Hanks had been charged with fornication, a legal charge applied when an unmarried woman gave birth. Shortly afterward, Lucy married a man named Henry Sparrow. The timing appeared to match the birth of Nancy Hanks. To these historians, the evidence was clear. Nancy was born before Lucy's marriage. The shame was real. The secret was justified. The other camp pushed back hard. They argued that Lucy Hanks was actually Lucy Shipley, a woman who had married a man named James Hanks before his death. In their view, Nancy was born within a legitimate marriage, and the story of illegitimacy was a distortion, magnified by gossip and time. They questioned Herndon's reliability, noting that he wrote decades after the events and was known to dramatize. For generations, the debate stalled. No baptismal record survived. Census data conflicted. Family Bibles were missing. Each side could assemble a plausible case, but neither could land a knockout blow. This is where modern genetic genealogy enters the story. In the early 2010s, researchers began asking a different question. Instead of trying to reconstruct the past from fading ink and fragile memory, they asked whether the answer might still exist inside living people. Specifically, they turned to mitochondrial DNA, known as mtDNA. Mitochondrial DNA is passed exclusively from mother to child, unchanged across generations. Unlike most DNA, it does not recombine. That makes it a powerful tool for tracing direct maternal lines across centuries. If Nancy Hanks's maternal lineage could be reconstructed through living female descendants, researchers could test whether it aligned with the Shipley family or stood apart. The task was daunting. Abraham Lincoln left no surviving daughters, but Nancy Hanks came from a large extended family. Researchers identified living women descended in an unbroken female line from Nancy's maternal relatives, tracing back to Nancy's grandmother, Anne Lee Hanks. These women formed one test group. A second group consisted of women descended in a direct maternal line from the Shipley family. If Lucy Hanks truly had been Lucy Shipley, both groups would share the same mitochondrial DNA. If they did not, one theory would collapse. Each participant provided a DNA sample. The analysis focused solely on mitochondrial sequences, carefully avoiding overreach into traits or identity. When the results came back, they were clear on one crucial point. The two groups did not match. The maternal descendants of Nancy Hanks shared the same mitochondrial lineage with one another, but not with the Shipley descendants. That finding alone did not prove illegitimacy, but it strongly undercut the Shipley theory that Nancy was born within that family line. For the first time, genetic evidence aligned with the long-disputed documentary record and with Lincoln's own private confession. But the DNA did something else as well. It raised new questions. The mitochondrial lineage identified among Nancy Hanks's maternal descendants belonged to a rare branch of a broader haplogroup known as haplogroup X. Haplogroup X is uncommon in Europe and appears in small frequencies across multiple regions, including parts of Europe, the Near East, and the Mediterranean. Its ancient origins remain debated among geneticists. Some researchers propose that the specific sub-branch identified in the Hanks line was particularly rare, though scholars caution against drawing precise geographic conclusions from mitochondrial data alone. What the DNA could say, with confidence, was limited. It could trace a maternal line. It could rule out certain family connections. It could not name fathers. It could not assign ethnicity with certainty. It could not tell a complete story. The identity of Nancy Hanks's father remains unknown, and that unknown matters. In early America, relationships between women of lower status and men of higher status were common and rarely documented honestly. Power protected reputations. Silence preserved hierarchy. Children born from these unions often carried the consequences alone. Lincoln grew up shaped by that reality. Raised on the frontier, distant from elite society, he absorbed a deep sensitivity to exclusion, injustice, and the arbitrary nature of legitimacy. Whether consciously or not, his personal history informed his political instincts. If you're finding this story compelling, take a moment to like the video. It helps more people discover long-form history that respects complexity instead of flattening it. What DNA ultimately revealed about Lincoln's mother is not a neat answer. It didn't turn scandal into certainty. It didn't replace history with science. Instead, it confirmed something more unsettling. America's most mythologized leader came from a lineage shaped by ambiguity, vulnerability, and silence. And that pattern is not unique. Across American history, paper records tend to favor the powerful. DNA, by contrast, preserves what documents erase. It reconnects forgotten branches. It reveals how often national myths rest on incomplete truths. Lincoln understood this instinctively. He guarded his mother's story, not because he was ashamed of her, but because he knew how the world judged origin over merit. In public, he built a narrative of self-making. In private, he honored the woman who gave him his mind. Today, genetic tools allow us to revisit such stories with humility. They don't replace historians. They don't issue verdicts. They complicate what we think we know. If you've ever taken a DNA test expecting clarity and instead received more questions, you're not alone. Ancestry rarely delivers clean answers. It delivers context. As we learn more about the genetic past, one truth becomes unavoidable. American identity has never been tidy. It has always been layered, fractured, and shaped by forces that left few records behind. That doesn't weaken the story. It deepens it. If you want more episodes that explore how DNA, documents, and power intersect in American history, make sure you're subscribed and notifications are on. We release new investigations regularly, and many are driven by viewer questions. Leave a comment if there's a historical figure or a family mystery you want us to examine next. In the end, what DNA revealed about Abraham Lincoln's mother wasn't just a family secret. It was a reminder. History isn't inherited cleanly. Legitimacy is often constructed, and the past survives not just in archives, but in living cells. The truth doesn't always rewrite legends. Sometimes it simply reminds us that the people behind them were human, and that, more than anything, is worth remembering.